1. We are live. Welcome back to the ImprovED podcast, where we are pushing the evolution of education through conversations with rock star teachers. My name is Justin Coffey, and I'm an assistant principal at Ulysses High School in Ulysses, Kansas. And you can find me on Twitter at Justin B. Coffey.
And I'm Jennifer Farr. I'm a 5th grade teacher in Junction City, and you can find me on Twitter at Jennifer M. Farr.
Excellent. And speaking of rockstar teachers, this is a first for the ImprovED podcast, but we have a returning guest. Our guest today kind of created a fangirl out of Jennifer Farr, and so she has been itching to talk to our guest again. And so we are happy to have Greg on the show. And Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of introduce.
Okay, well, I'm going to just preface everything, but I'm a 5th grade teacher. So for a 5th grade teacher to be fangirling a kindergarten teacher, you know they're big time. So Mr. Greg is from the kindergarten Smorgasboard, and he has spent, are you 15 years of teaching?
16.
And he has taught 5th grade. 16. 5th grade, 2nd grade, and now he's in kindergarten, which is totally his passion, his calling, I'm just going to say it, it's his gift in life. He is meant to teach kindergarten. That is just his skill set for sure. He is currently in Nashville, so where he is taught through a tornado, through pandemics, through quarantines. And when he's not in the classroom, he's doing all things blogging, doing speaking engagements, and definitely need to check out his blog. Furthermore, he loves to spend time with his family, with his husband, known as the Mister, and then his sweet, sweet daughter, Adeline. I love her. I love seeing everything about her on social media. You guys are great parents.
Absolutely.
I'm even fangirling her.
I'm sure she'll have her own Instagram here soon. It can't be too long.
Yeah, we keep getting a lot of requests for that.
Well, welcome, Greg. I'm so excited to have you back.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. She will be 2 in April.
Okay.
Such a fun age. Before I have a whole list of questions here, and I know Jennifer Farr has questions also. But before we get into that, I just wanted to check in and just kind of ask, how are you? How are you dealing with the pandemic? How are things in Nashville? I know you guys, the tornado, pandemic, ice storms, snow. I mean, you guys have kind of seen it all. So just how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing good. I'm not somebody who gets stressed or anxious very much, and so I'm just kind of gone with the flow as much as I can. Over the past year, you know, tornadoes. We had the bombing in Nashville, the car bombing on Christmas Day. Our neighborhood flooded. You know, anything that could have gone on in 2020 and 2021 has gone on for us. We've been quarantined, but we've done fine. We've been good. We're spending all of our time together, which has been nice as a parent, because I've gotten to spend so much time with Adeline and see so many things that I wouldn't have been able to see. And so there's definitely been a silver lining and a blessing. But we're doing okay.
I agree. Being a teacher and a parent is definitely one of the hardest things. And so when you are able to get a little extra time at home, it makes all this hard work right now a little bit easier.
Right.
Agree. So
okay. Well, my first question. Are you going to go first, Justin?
Nope, go for it.
I think I'm lagging a little bit.
That's all right. Go for it.
Just my my first question is, when this all came about a year ago, I told my students I never imagined this is where we'd be 365 days later. What was your first reaction? How did you navigate with your students? I mean, we went remote quick. We didn't even come back from spring break. There was no goodbyes, no closure. It was very difficult. So with older kids, it's one thing. I mean, we can communicate, we can Zoom. It's easier. I'm not having to show them where the mute button is and how to talk. So what were first steps with kindergarten and virtual learning?
So are you talking about for this school year or when this all started back in the spring?
Or both.
Okay.
Either one, because it's going to be two different.
So we took two totally different approaches as a district. So what happened for us is we closed on March 11th. So the week prior, like March 3rd, a massive tornado hit Nashville. Basically, the entire north side of the city was wiped out. The schools, homes, everything. So we were closed for that entire week. We came back to school on Monday. We were in school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday, we had a normal dismissal, loved on all the kids. Thankfully, I have this routine where every day I tell them I love them, I hug them, I'll see them tomorrow. That Wednesday night at 8:00, we got the notice that we were closed. The following week was spring break, and then we never came back. So we didn't even get I know a lot of schools closed and knew it was you had prep time. We didn't. We walked out of our school building on March 11th, and that was it. There was no closure at all with last year's class. So what we did was, for the first few weeks, it was just meeting the needs of our kids as far as food and those kind of things, and connecting with them with each family daily through phone calls or text or whatever. And then after a few weeks of that, we transitioned to some remote learning, but it was all recorded lessons. So my team, we worked together and came up with our themes and our units, and we recorded lessons. The kids watched them on YouTube and then sent us pictures of stuff they were doing. But it was very informal, no grades, no real expectations, but we were providing some lessons. So that's kind of how it ended for us. This year, we started virtual kindergarten on the first day of school. And so we've bounced back and forth. And so we've had, we've very typical expectations for our school days, whether we've been virtual or in person. And so we use Microsoft Teams. When we're virtual, we have, a schedule we follow. We have 3 live classes a day. They have work they have to complete. We have an online curriculum that they work through on their own. So that's kind of, and they're getting grades, report cards, attendance, all of that is happening this year when we're in the virtual setting.
Wow. So the first day of kindergarten, my wife is a kindergarten teacher also, and also a fangirl. So the first day of kindergarten, just on a regular school year, is such a crazy, intense, emotional, important day. I can't think of a day more important in a kid's education than their first day, their first interaction with school. So that's just in a normal school year. When your first day is virtual, is I'm just envisioning this complete chaos. Is that how it was, or what was that like?
It was one of the most surreal things I think I've experienced, especially as an educator. But it wasn't as chaotic as I thought it would be, because I spent a lot of time in the weeks leading up to this, because we had plenty of lead time knowing that this was going to happen. It wasn't like it was 2 days before and we're like, oh, this is happening. So we had plenty of time. And so as soon as we found out we were virtual and I started getting class list, I was in touch with the families. So a lot of the families I was in touch with for several weeks before the first day. So that helped. And they were able to get through the tech issue, kind of get them ready. So the first day went as smoothly as it could have. I had, I think, half the class show up on the first day, which I was incredibly pleased with. But I recorded the whole thing. It's posted on our YouTube channel, and it ended up going viral. But if you watch the video, I went back and watched it. I've watched it a couple times, and of course, it shows up sometimes on TV, and I'll watch it, and I can tell by looking at me, just by the way I'm standing and my movements and my posture, my body language, I was so tense and I was so nervous. But I remember as soon as we were done, because we did at that time we had a 2-hour block where we were live, and so we broke it up into chunks. And so when we were done, I remember picking up my phone and texting Jason and saying, "It worked. This is going to work. We can do this." So getting through that first day was kind of that bump that I needed. Okay, we got this. We can make this work. It was something.
One of the biggest things is just for society to see how resilient kids are and how teachers rise to the occasion. You give us a tornado, all right, checkmate. I can handle that.
Yeah.
Give me a pandemic, I gotcha. Like, we can rise to the occasion. What do you feel like educators have done really well? What do you think we still need to work on? And what do you think this means for our classrooms next year? Because I don't think our classrooms will ever run the same.
Yeah, so I think the one, I'll speak personally. What has been probably the thing I've done the best with in this situation is communication. Like I said, I started communicating with my families the second their address hit my list. And I've been in near constant communication with them nonstop since. And so that's something that I've been very pleased with, is that I've been able to give them all the information, all the help, all the support that I can. And so I think the communication piece, and I would be willing to bet for almost all teachers that is something that's been very similar this year, just because it's been a necessity more than ever. And that's something that I will definitely carry into the future with me, is to keep up that communication. But there's so many things that we've done well that I think will carry over. Communication, cleaning. Let's be real. Like, classrooms are not the cleanest place in the world to begin with. But I definitely think that's something that we will see continue. I think that's something that schools and districts and communities have realized is something that we've failed on. Engagement. I think we've come up with lots of new ways to engage kids. And so I think you'll see those types of engaging lessons and activities continue in the future. Just being the creativity that I've seen. Because when you're teaching a kindergartner through a screen, you've got to be creative. You've got to come up with games and activities and anything you can to keep them engaged. So I think we've really kind of forced teachers, all of us, out of our box. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I talk about a lot is get out of your box, try something new. Sure, it might fail, but you've tried it, you'll learn from it. And so I think we've all been pushed very far out of our comfort zones, and we'll see the long-term impacts of that in classrooms.
Well, when you have constraints like we've had, I think you're right that sometimes it sounds kind of odd, but those constraints breed creativity. And so you touched on the creativity, and I just have to bring it up. I want to keep talking about the pandemic stuff, but my goodness, on Instagram yesterday or 2 days ago, I'm looking and seeing this Jurassic Park in a classroom. Can you talk to me a little bit about where this came about and how you transformed your classroom like that? Absolutely incredible.
So this is one of my favorite themes or units to teach. I love dinosaurs, and I know kids love dinosaurs, and there's significant research that says kids who are into dinosaurs have there are actual academic benefits to that. And so it's always something I love to teach. So we haven't been able to do it for a couple of years because of district mandates and different things. And so this year we've had a little bit more flexibility with the units that we teach, as long as we're meeting the objectives. And so we decided as a team that dinosaurs was in this year, because even if we were virtual, we knew it would engage the kids. So when I found out it was going to happen in person, I was like, thank God. So the transformation came about. And I'm glad I get to tell this story. So we've actually done the transformation.
I feel like I need to screen share these.
Yeah.
You can.
So
talking.
I've done it once before. So when we built our house 3.5 years ago, we needed a washer and dryer. So we went to Home Depot to get a washer and dryer. It was in October, so around Halloween. When we walked into Home Depot, I kid you not, there's a 9-foot T-Rex skeleton as part of their Halloween decorations that they were selling. And I was like, and Jason was like, washer and dryer, washer and dryer, washer and dryer. And I'd never done a room transformation before, had never had any desire to do one. And I was like, I was like, oh my God, can I please get that from our classroom? And so that's where it came about, was literally seeing that T-Rex in Home Depot. I was like, okay, we love dinosaurs. We're going all in on this one. And so there it is. And so they had other dinosaur skeletons as well. So we, that's where it came from. And there's Adeline Rose.
Wrong one.
So that's where it came from. And so you can, it's on our blog. You can read all the details about it.
Oh my goodness.
And then of course the dinosaur skeletons also make great decorations for Halloween at our house. And so multi-purpose transformation.
I want my kid in your class.
Thank you.
Look at those kids.
That's the best compliment someone can give you.
I know.
Those archaeologists.
And you could even just see the smiles under those masks.
Yeah. It was a great day.
I love this kid.
Yes, it's bold and big and over the top and crazy ridiculous over the top. I know that. We've gotten quite a bit of feedback about this. But this year more than ever, our kids deserve this.
Oh, I love it.
And that I went into this like wanting to give them. I told the families that when we go in person, I promise to give your kids the best kindergarten year ever, because they deserve it, because we've been living in a pandemic and that has been hard on all of us, including the kids. And I think it's easy to forget what impact it has on them. And so when we finally came back in person a couple weeks ago, I decided like I was going to do dinosaurs anyway, but I'm like, I'm going big because they deserve this. And seeing their reaction and hearing their reaction.
How do you answer? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And just seeing their reaction and their faces and hearing them when they walked in on Tuesday made it all worth it.
How do you answer? That kind of leads me to my question. How do you answer when we hear people? I just have to use a general term. People say, well, our kids are behind. They're behind. What's your thinking when they make those generalizations?
Well, behind what? Yes, you're right. If you look at the artificial benchmarks and data points that have been created by politicians and districts and other people, then yes, we are behind. But you're looking at artificial numbers that are made up. And so my kids aren't behind, I don't feel like. What concerns me with this, because this is a huge topic in education, right? Mm-hmm. What concerns me is how this will be used to impact education going forward. Because I think you will see, oh, look, they're behind. And so my fear is that we're going to have so many programs and interventions and mandates pushed into classrooms without any thought about what do our kids really need. And so that's my fear. And I think, we've seen it happen in our state where they're like, look at this data. This data shows the kids are so far behind, but they're not. Right. And everyone is in the same situation. And so I don't feel that my kids are behind. Are they where they would be in a normal year? No. We're definitely not where we would be, but we've done the best we can given the circumstances.
That's awesome. I think that
I agree. They're only behind what we say.
Right.
Yeah. I love some of the things that you've been talking about, like when the schools closed down the first time last year, and the first thing that you said your district took care of was, hey, do our kids have what they need as far as like food, like shelter with the tornado just going through, and just kind of following like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like we none of us have been through this pandemic before. And so, there's been this real like, oh my gosh, what should we do? What do we need to do? Because we've never been through anything like this. Well, that hierarchy is a good place to start, right? Like, Absolutely. Let's make sure that our kids' basic needs are met. And then let's give them a little bit. Let's help them feel like they're a part of a community. Let's get them back connected with their classroom teachers. And eventually we're going to get back up to this higher level thinking and the academic stuff. But there's no way you can leapfrog all of the important things that have to happen before kids are ready for that learning. So, I'm a bit of a data junkie. And so a big part of me kind of does want like these state assessments to happen this year, just to like see what was the impact. Like, I just kind of want to see that data, but you have changed my mind because the fact is I would like to see that data, but unfortunately there's darker figures who would like to have their hands on that data for bad purposes. Right. And so you just changed my mind just now. Forget it. Take those state assessments.
One down. How many more to go?
Oh my goodness. So one of the things you also talked about is like safety measures and cleanliness and stuff like that. You are back in person, and a lot of school districts are just on the verge of coming back to person or just starting to come back to person. Can you talk about some of the safety measures that have happened in your classroom to help protect both you and your students?
Yeah. So our district, we started the year virtually. We were virtual for 9 weeks. Then we went in person for 8 weeks. Then we had to go back to virtual, and we just came back in person 2 weeks ago. So we've kind of bounced back and forth. But when we were getting ready to go in person, the district, basically following CDC guidelines, laid out the plans, and then parents could decide if they wanted to send their kids in person or keep them virtual. But they had all of the information. So masks are required, and we've had no issues at all with the masks. If adults wore the masks like my kids, there would be no pandemic. High contact surfaces are getting cleaned more regularly by me. And common areas, the custodians are taking care of all that. But in the classroom, I'm making sure everything gets, those high contact surfaces get wiped down. No sharing of supplies. Social distancing. So our district policy is social distancing when possible. But we did not have the funding or the physical space to adjust our class sizes. So I have 23 kids. So they all sit on yoga mats because I figured up with the space and the desks and everything, yoga mats gave us a little bit more room. So we're at about 2 feet of space between each other, but we have our masks on. The district has been great about providing us PPE. So we have plenty of masks, shields, gloves, sanitizer, cleaning wipes. So they did a great job with that. Small groups, we do, I can do 2 kids at a time at my small group table, and we all have to wear our face shields and our mask when we do small groups. But otherwise, they just have to wear their masks. Unless there's a medical exception. I have a student who has an exception, so she doesn't wear a mask, but has not caused any issues at all. We still go to recess. We just can't play on the equipment. We go by ourselves instead of with the rest of the grade. They can play it together and stuff at recess. They just have to wear their mask. If they want to take their mask off at recess, they go off and hang out by themselves, which they generally don't do because they want that social piece. Mm-hmm. We eat lunch and breakfast in the classroom. The breakfast in the classroom has been the norm for us for years. Lunch in the classroom was my choice this year. We can eat in the cafeteria, but when I saw the setup of the cafeteria, it just didn't make me comfortable. And so I opted to basically create a bubble. And so we don't leave for lunch. We don't leave for specials. So the art, music, computer teacher, they all come to our classroom. So we really created this bubble. Like we don't interact with anybody else. And so they take their masks off, of course, to eat lunch and breakfast. But that's really what we're doing. Social distancing, not possible with 23 5-year-olds in a room. But we've had no issues at all in our classroom with anybody being sick or anything.
Yeah. Well, I remember the advice you gave in our first podcast, and it was kind of controversial if maybe you want to say it, but you said, hey, you should eat lunch with your class even if it's not every day, just once a week, stop down and eat lunch with your class. So you're living it, right?
Yeah. I told my principal at the beginning of when we went in person, I said, I've always wanted to eat lunch in the classroom with my kids. Like I've always because the cafeterias are just wild. And I was like, I always thought it would be so much fun to do, but the logistics of getting them to the cafeteria, getting their food, getting it back to the classroom wouldn't work. But this year we had the opportunity to do it, and it's been great.
That's awesome.
Am I up? Can I go? I always have like a whole list of questions. I mean, I'm sure Justin's like, I got one more before she gets in there, before she starts asking more. How have you been handling the social emotional aspect of your students? I know that when my students came back this year, they were ready. They were ready. I was ready. I was nervous for sure. I feel like we had good protocol and good building safety, but their emotional state, I can tell, is a little more fragile. Just missing things, missing norms. The conversations have been good. Like, oh, when this pandemic's over, this is what I'm going to do. I think it'll be a slow reentry, of course, but how are you handling the social emotional state of 5-year-olds and their parents? Because their parents, this is an emotional time for them. They've been at home with babies for a pandemic, which is hard, and a security net. And then to have to send your kid to school for the first time in a general setting is difficult, but then to send them during a pandemic is also. So you've got two sets of social emotional needs to address.
So a big part of that for us is something we've always done, which is morning meeting. And so we have time every day to share and to talk. And so the kids are able to share things and talk about things. And so that helps because they're able to get that out and express those feelings, and we can talk about them. We did a lot when we came back in person. We did a whole week of learning about germs and staying healthy. And so that was deliberate, obviously, to help keep us safe. But I wanted it also helped alleviate their fears. And so they kind of understand a little better, like how germs work, why we do the things we do. And so I think it's so important for them to understand why we're doing these things. But also think as 5-year-olds, they know a lot more than we think they do, but they're also shielded a little more. And so it's a little bit different for us. You know, they'll talk about coronavirus, and when coronavirus is gone, we're going to go on a trip. So they talk about it in more general terms. But the families definitely, it's been harder for them, sending their kids to school in a pandemic. And again, it's been lots of conversation, complete transparency. I take some additional steps in the classroom. Like I make sure to steam mop our floors every day. I've got a little steam sanitizer. I steam the room every day to keep, and so I shared those things with the families. I talked about creating the bubble, isolating us from the rest of the building. And so I've been very, very honest and transparent with the families about the safety measures. And one of the things that as a parent, Adeline with her school, every day we get this list of all the things they do every day, and we get pictures. And so that's something that I've implemented into my classroom this year. So every day the parents get a list of here's what we did today. And they don't get individual pictures of their kids, but I send them pictures of what we're doing in the classroom. And I think that's helped. And so just for them to be able to see their kids having a good time, being happy, being with their friends, I think helps a lot. But again, I think it just all goes back to that communication and building those relationships through communication.
That is such a huge deal. And I know I'm a secondary teacher and principal. And so it's like, well, what do you have in common with the kindergarten teacher? I mean, one of the things is communication. And I think at the secondary level, I don't know if afraid is the right word, but we don't communicate as well with our families. And it's one of the things as a dad, I appreciate so much when I hear about what's happening at my kid's school and I hear about how he's doing. I always appreciate it. And so of course, at the kindergarten level, communication is so important, but across all levels, I can't think of anything more important for our families. And so that kind of brings me to my next question, because this parenting thing is relatively new to you. So
yes, it is.
how has becoming a parent changed you as a teacher? What kind of impact has that had on in your classroom?
Everyone said when you become a parent, teaching will totally be, different, and that will change. And I didn't really understand it. And I thought, okay, sure. But it makes you more empathetic to what the other side of this equation is like. And it really hit me when I had to drop Adeline off at school on her first day of school by myself. Because Jason's mom has been sick, but he was taking care of his mom, and so I had to take Adeline. And so it was gut-wrenching, not in a way because, oh my God, it's bad, but it's just to see your child upset and that fear and that uneasiness. And it completely changed how I look at the families of my kids. And we're always very comforting, and we really work with them to make that first day of kindergarten easy. But after that, I was like, oh, so being able to see both sides of it really makes me more empathetic, more understanding of what goes on. Kids coming to school tired, things going on at home, definitely makes you much more appreciative of what's happening at home. Definitely more understanding, more patient with the parents and the families. Because I get it. I know what it's like. You're up all night, you're tired. You've got 8 million other things going on. This project doesn't matter. And then I'm constantly in my interactions with my students, I'm constantly thinking, what would I want Adeline to have at her school? What would I want her to see or do or hear or feel? And so that's always going through my mind as I'm interacting with my kids. And so it's definitely changed the way I interact with my kids. It makes me sound like I was a horrible person to them before, but it's just, everything is you're looking at it with a totally different lens, much more of that empathy. Like I want Adeline to go to school and have Jurassic Park in her classroom. And I want her to have diverse and inclusive books in her classroom. And, I want her to come in and I want her to walk into her classroom and squeal. So all those things that I want for her, I want for my students as well.
I think it makes you more intentional as a teacher. I think you're intentional with your reactions to my computer's not charged, your reaction to I'm late again. Also, it's intentional about what matters and what doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I didn't return the paper on Monday that I meant to return graded last, but what is important is I met him with a smile and a hug. I think that's what I have found is I'm much more intentional with decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Your priorities change. Like, the stuff, the papers, that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is the kids and their happiness and their joy of learning. That's what matters. And as you want that as a parent, and so that very easily translates into the classroom.
Yeah.
I think every parent needs to follow your blog and Instagram because it's also alleviated some pressure on me as a parent. Like, okay, he doesn't have to know every letter sound, every digraph, every blend, I just need to read and have fun and let him experience life before he goes to kindergarten.
Absolutely.
That's so true. So you are cool as a cucumber. And you say that you're just kind of rolling with the punches and everything's okay. But this has to have created a little bit more stress in your life. So how are you like centering yourself? How are you recharging your batteries? Because there's a lot of teachers who have been at home for a long time now, and they're afraid to go back to the classroom. They're nervous, they're anxious, they're excited at the same time. Like it's really strange emotions that are coming. So, but we all had to like take care of ourselves and recharge our own batteries, right? So how are you doing that through all this?
So, I think for me, what I do is we have a hot tub. And so literally every night I sit in the hot tub. And that's just my time. Like it calms me down. It relaxes me. I enjoy it. When it snowed here in Nashville last week, it was 20 degrees and snowing an inch an hour. I was in the hot tub. Like, it's just that's my thing. And so Jason cracks up because I'm such a creature of habit. Like, that's every night, like clockwork, I'm in the hot tub. But so find what works for you, whatever your thing is. And so there's all this stuff on social media about self-care, and you have to do this, you have to. Well, that's not self-care. Like telling me to turn my phone off and not to check my email and not to bring work home and to leave right at dismissal. I get that's all great and fine if you want to do that and you can do that, great. But that, to me, I'm like that doesn't help my self-care. Like, like whatever works for you, like find what does it for you. For me, it's getting in the hot tub and relaxing every night. Maybe it's having a glass of wine. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe going for a run. Whatever makes you feel good, that's what you need to be doing to take care of yourself.
I wish my thing that would help me unwind was like a healthy thing, like going for a run or something. Mine's like, eat a bag of potato chips.
Mine too. Reese cups in bed every night. Get out of the hot tub, go get in bed, eat some Reese cups.
What would you tell the teachers? So I've been in brick and mortar day one. So the teachers that are kind of bouncing back and forth or have not been in at all, their apprehension level is at an all-time high. Like their anxiety is just maxed out. And I understand some of it to a degree because I felt some anxiety going back in August, but I'm not feeling it, I don't think, as immensely because it was just all in, jump in on the deep end. So as we have vaccines rolling out, as CDC has said, it's time, let's get our kids back in school. They need that. What could you say to educators as they're going back for day one and that haven't been in it?
I think one of the things that everybody, and I think we talked about this a little bit before we started, was what are the procedures like? Do you have to teach them every day? Like, we've already built relationships with our kids, even virtually. Like, I had relationships with my kids, so we had that connection. So coming back into the classroom wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. It was actually pretty easy because I didn't have to learn their names. They didn't have to learn me. We knew each other's personalities. We knew they knew what to expect from me. They still knew our class rule was be your best. They knew how to respond to our wireless doorbell. They knew our cleanup song. So they knew a lot of what already went on in the classroom. So that transition into the classroom is easier than you think it will be because there's already a relationship, right? Because you think to a normal first day of kindergarten, 20 kids roll up in that room and they're looking at me like, who's this and what does he want me to do? But now we had 9 weeks. Many people are going to have months and months of online learning. So they already know you've got that relationship. So it's not as hard to make that transition as we think it is. There's definitely a lot more to procedures they have to learn this year. And that will obviously varies based on your setup, but
Uh-oh.
I thought it was me, but I think we're frozen.
I think we have a frozen Mr. Greg, so.
Oh, man. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he was headed to the hot tub.
I hope so. Well.
I thought I heard. That's all right. It's a good piece of advice, though. I think it's not as difficult as, but I don't know. I haven't been there, but I didn't think that coming back when I came back in August was as difficult.
Sorry.
There he is.
I don't know what happened.
Back.
Welcome to teaching.
We thought you were taking your break. Self-care time.
What?
We thought you were headed out to the hot tub.
Right. Hot tub time. No.
Time out. Self-care time.
Self-care. We're done. No, I don't know. It just went away and came back.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about it's good advice because I was apprehensive, afraid to go back, and same thing as Jennifer Farr. We've been in person since day one. We haven't missed a single day, and I haven't missed a single day. And I'm not saying that it's been easy. It's been difficult, but a lot of the things I was afraid of or anxious about, have turned out to be not an issue. And so we've felt safe. Our kids have stayed safe. We've had a couple teachers who have come down with COVID, but, you know, we're working our way through that. And, you know, and we're lucky now our county is down to 2 active cases. So,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. But, you know, I'm not saying it's just been an easy, straight path. It's been tough, but it's good. It's good. It's having the kids back, seeing them in person, giving them fist bumps or elbow taps or all of those things. It's been really good. It's good for them. It's good for me. So I'm excited for kids to get back in the classroom throughout the United States.
It's been really good for them. You definitely, you know, it's been the hardest year of my professional life. Like, I can't imagine a year that could be harder.
Yeah.
But we've done it. We're doing it. It's been okay. There are good days and bad days.
Yeah.
And so, you know, at the end of the day, the kids are thriving, and they thrived virtually. Like we made the virtual setting work. It wasn't what we wanted, but that's what we had to do. We made it work. They made progress. They learned. They had fun. We built relationships. And so, you know, now that we're back in the classroom, they're exploding because they have the social interaction. They've got their routines. They feel safe. And so it's not easy, but you can do it. And it'll be okay.
I love it. I would love to end on
that go back. Oh, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I hope that those teachers that go back, like, I think that they're going to find, like, today, like, as you were talking, this reminded me, today I had a Post-it note on my computer that said, "Thank you for teaching me. This is a great day," or something. And I think when you're virtual, you're not getting those sticky notes. And so I hope that every teacher that is not in the classroom, when they go back, they get those sticky notes to remind them that this 12 months was worth the today.
Right.
That's, again, that I love ending on this positive note, because this has been a really tough year, but you're right. Like, we're making it happen. The kids are doing well. And so I also don't want to stand between Greg and hot tub time. So
absolutely.
Greg, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. It's great to hear from you. Great to see what's happening in your classroom. Again, if you're not following Kindergarten Smorgasboard on Instagram and all of those social media places, on the blog, please do yourself a favor and get there. Also, I'm going to put a link to that first day of school video on YouTube. So if you want to check out what the first day of virtual kindergarten looks like, we'll have a link provided for you. But Greg, where can they find you? Can you help our viewers out?
Yeah, so our website is thekindergartensmorgasboard.com, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can just search for Kindergarten Smorgasboard, and you'll find us. But, you know, thekindergartensmorgasboard.com is the place to start. We also have our online store, which is tksstore.com.
Please, it'll be the best follow. I promise you. If you are an educator, find it, because it is a treasure. You'll get to see the dinosaurs and all that good stuff. Greg, thank you so much. Jen, it's great to see you again.
Thank you guys for having me.
Out of you guys. See ya.
Bye, guys.
All right. Yay.
I've been a groupie. I've been following ever since the first.